All right, we got Paul Spicer, former Jacksonville Jaguars defensive end.
That's it, baby.
Paul, thanks for taking the time to come on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh man, it's my pleasure, man, to get the opportunity to, talk about something that's always near and dear to my heart. Despite coaching elsewhere, the Jags will always have that special place in my heart.
Yeah, man, we love you. You had quite a journey to the NFL. I was doing some research. You went to Saginaw Valley State for college ball, and then you end up signing as a undrafted free agent with the Seattle Seahawks. You end up going to the Lions and then playing some Canadian and European ball, and then you end up on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you help bring them to their first playoff run in 6 years. Were you at all surprised that you guys got that far, or like how did you kind of feel about that?
I mean, I wasn't surprised because I knew the type of pedigree and team we had with the players we had. We really had some really top-notch guys that deserve more recognition than they got, and that's probably due to the fact that a small media market with Jacksonville. Because with all of us, we it was always you had to go over and beyond, and if we wasn't winning, you wasn't gonna get no Pro Bowl nod or anything like that unless you had some unbelievable numbers. But when you think about guys like Fred Taylor, Maurice Jones-Drew, Rasheem Mathis, Big John Henderson, Marcus Stroud, I mean Reggie Hayward, Mike Peterson, who's been passed up so many times for Pro Bowls. I mean, all of us, including myself, and I can go on. I mean, Daryl Smith. I mean, a guy has played all three positions as a linebacker and played them all at a very, very high level and played a long time. Never complained about anything and just went out there and got his job done and played very well. Another guy that should have, really been mentioned when they came down to Pro Bowl voting. But again, like I said, we had a great team. We was a close team, and everybody was pulling the rope the same way. And when you have that, you will have success. I mean, David Carrard and Maurice Jones-Drew, Mercedes Lewis. I mean, I can go on and on, man. I mean, about all the guys, but I just think that those years that I was with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the success that we had as a team, you can't point at one guy. When you hear some of the teams that had success, you always hear that one guy name sometimes, but with the Jaguars, if it ain't a team effort, it ain't nothing. And even when you go back just a few years ago when they really made that run and they came up short, a game short before the Super Bowl with Blake Bortles, and they had a hell of a defense with, the likes of the young man that's out there. Oh, my goodness. I can see his face is out of Florida State on the corner, Ramsey, Jalen Ramsey. When they had a great defense, again, you just couldn't point at one guy. Even though I mentioned Blake Bortles and Jalen Ramsey, but you still couldn't just say, okay, they were the reason. They were just a part of the reason. And anytime when you look back on the success of the organization, it really was a real overall team effort. It really wasn't a one guy band. And sometimes, like I said, you see the other teams like the Indianapolis Colts. It was Peyton Manning, Patriots. It was Tom Brady. When it came to the Jaguars, man, it was the Jaguars, and I think people lose sight of that. And hopefully, they hired Urban Meyer. Wasn't high on my list, but hey, they hired him. So what do I know? Shad Khan and Tony Khan, with a host of other people, felt that was the best move for the organization. Hey man, like I said, I'm still a Jaguar fan. I still love my team, the city, even though I'm not living there anymore, but still I want them to get it right. I want to continue like you and many other Jaguar fans out there that want to celebrate, our team, and hoping that they can come together. I mean, I know they got some other coaches there that are friends of mine that I know that are good coaches, and will do their best to bring the city a championship because the city deserves it, man. After watching the Milwaukee Bucks, win that championship. It just makes me think about it's time, man. The Jacksonville Jaguars. It's time to hold that Lombardi Trophy up.
Definitely couldn't agree with you more, Paul. And I definitely agree. It's a team game. Jacksonville's a tough market, but hopefully it starts emerging, starts getting bigger, starts getting more attention with hopefully improved results with Urban Meyer, and it's going to be exciting. But one thing I thought that was kind of crazy was you guys had two playoff runs, one in 2005 and 2007, and you lose against the Patriots, and then in 2017 we lose again to the Patriots. It's kind of crazy. I feel like the Patriots, oh man, they're like our kryptonite. We'll get them though.
Well, you know what? And like I said, there were opportunities. I mean, and I know in '07, especially in 2017, there were opportunities that unfortunately we didn't capitalize on. The team in 2017 had opportunities; they were right there. But again, in those big moments, man, you got to be on your A game. You can't when the playoffs start. You better because when we went in '07 back to Pittsburgh and beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, twice in December. Nobody's done that before. I mean, and you know what? They thought they were just going to roll in and roll right over us. And I don't know why they thought like that because heck, we just beat them a couple of weeks prior. In which a game they kind of came back. But we ended up winning the game. And I think they didn't take it seriously, just thinking that, oh, here's a team that's not really used to playoffs, or we're a playoff bound team every year. We'll take care of them. And that's not what happened. And we made some changes, in '07, moving into New England game. We made changes to our defense. I wish we didn't. Every time I even think about the game itself, I just, think about, Jack Del Rio, changed the defense up a little bit and with Mike Smith. And, I had the opportunity to coach with Mike and I used to bring it up every blue moon, hey, Mike, man, change the defense on us '07. What was y'all thinking? But when you got a head coach that's a defensive coach, no matter what, he's always going to have his thumb on it. It's just like, you look at any team, look at the head coach. If the head coach is a defensive guy, where you think all the focus is going to be generally on the defense. And that's how it was with Del Rio. I'm sure with Urban Meyer, he's the offensive guy. His focus is going to be on the offense. So, you can look at every team. I'm down here living in Tampa. You can look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, Bruce Arians, what type of guy was he? Offense. Where's all the real weapons on that team? Offense. So the focus is going to be generally on that side of the ball. But hopefully, man, like I said, the Jaguars get it right, and everything clicks on all cylinders for those guys, and they get opportunity to make a run. I know it's going to be hard with a first-year quarterback. He had a lot of success in college, and that's great, but that doesn't mean nothing. It doesn't mean nothing. What he did in college doesn't mean it doesn't get Jacksonville Jaguar community a win. It does not, and people need to realize that. Too many times people set players like Lawrence on these pedestals, assuming that, oh wow, he won a national title, so he's going to win a Super Bowl. Man, please. I tell people all the time, think of all the great quarterbacks that the University of Florida had, and then when they won titles. I said, did you see any of them make any Super Bowl runs? Nah, because it doesn't equate. It doesn't work like that. I mean, the NFL is a whole different brand of football, and I get so sick and tired of people thinking that Alabama can come to the NFL and win a game. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Again, hopefully, in these few years to come that we can have another conversation and we can be celebrating, a Super Bowl in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I'm a little cautiously optimistic about Trevor Lawrence. Like you said, it's just a huge jump from college to the NFL. So I'm rooting for him and hope he can have some success. You mentioned Jack Del Rio. You played under him. He was a head coach for the Jaguars when you were there. Can you kind of explain to me what his coaching style was?
Truthfully, I think it changed over time. I think in the beginning, Jack was a player's coach. I think he always was, always had an ear to listen to the locker room, meaning to listen to the players. I think that kind of changed a little bit because, when you have success, you always, searching for the next thing to try to recreate that success again. And every year in the NFL, every team is a new team. Some teams have some playing players, but they have new players too. And they got to figure out how to put those pieces to the puzzle back together again to have a really good team again. And, it's a coach's job to try to, put that together with his coaching staff. And we had a lot of turnover in our staff, coaching staff, in those years that Jack was the head coach, which personally, now as a coach, being a coach for the past 10 years, it never bodes well for a team. Um, Especially with young players, you want that consistency. You want them to hear that same voice all the time. If they hearing different voices, I mean, you look at our quarterbacks. I mean, Byron Leftwich, how many offense coordinators did he have in those 4 or 5 years he was with the Jags? I mean, I think 3 out of the 4 years he had a different offense coordinator. You can't expect success from, no chemistry. I mean, no continuity with the coach. And those relationships with the coach and player is very important. And I think, we had way too much turnover with Jack. But again, like I said, as far as a player, you know, Jack is the type of coach you want. He wants to be aggressive. He wants to get after people. And as a player, that's what you will want, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But, hey, Jack got another opportunity with Washington Redskins, with Ron Rivera. And, he got a lot of toys up there to play with on the defense side of the ball. So, I wish him success, because like I said, I know what type of guy he is as far as, what he wants out of a defense. And, you know what? He's always had success everywhere he's been on defense. And we had success in Jacksonville. But I think as a head coach, sometimes there was just some other things that kind of got in the way, not to try to be, specific with certain things, but I just think some things kind of got in the way of us, of Jack, getting over that hump and trying to find that next piece that's going to make us the best team that we can be. When sometimes you probably already had it in the locker room, but you overlooked it.
No, I totally agree with you. Continuity is so important. I think it's great that you mentioned that because, you look at what's happened with the Jaguars recently, in 2018. There was some turnover with their offensive coordinator Nate Hackett, and then they went to John DeFilippo. Then they went to what was it, Jay Gruden. So you saw that kind of same thing. There was a struggle there. I feel like there was that lack of continuity, like you had just pointed out. So I think that's a great point. But you played alongside some great defensive tackles. John Henderson, you mentioned, Marcus Stroud, and John's a huge personality. I mean, he was a big locker room guy, a presence. But I was just kind of curious, were there any other guys that would or any other players that would kind of get everybody G'd up and ready to go before a game?
Oh man, not like John Henderson. I will say that. But you know what? Marcus Stroud definitely had a personality of his own, and including myself. I mentioned Mike Peterson. He was another guy that brought a lot of energy to our defense. Donovan Darius, he did it in his own way. He wasn't as outspoken as we were, but I think that he had a way about just from a cerebral standpoint, getting the guys, especially in the secondary, because that's the guys that was he was around the majority of the time in meetings and practice and whatnot. But but it takes that though. It really takes, you got to have that guy that's going to willing to speak up and speak out and motivate guys, because you shouldn't need motivation. Personally, I mean, hey, you're at the top of the food chain in football, and that need to have somebody have to pump and prime you to get ready to play on Sunday, something's wrong with you. I think you need your heartbeat checked. But you know what? It's great to have those type of guys that we had that, and we had many of them. It wasn't just one guy. People like to say, well, man, Spice, you said Duval. Well, man, I wasn't the only one. John Henderson, myself, Fred Taylor got a hold of it a little bit. He didn't say it like we did with more passion because he was soft spoken most of the time. But, Maurice Jones-Drew, he was another guy that, you know, very, very animated and talkative guy. And I say animated, I'm just saying from the way he, carried himself in the locker room, but not so much in the media. But again, that was still, he did things that from a guy that was small in stature, he played like a guy that was, 6'6", 300 pounds. And he wasn't scared of nobody. And people in the locker room fed off that. And we came to play. We practiced physical and we played physical, and that's a testament. That's how Jack wanted it. He, organized our practices to be physical, and it allowed us to. It unfolded on Sunday versus a lot of teams. Teams knew it wasn't an easy win. When you came to Jacksonville or when you played the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's where it always have to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. You guys were a physical football team. Maurice Jones-Drew, he would just, you know, plow through people. He was a power runner, and shoot, you'd even see David Garrard running down the field throwing blocks too as a quarterback, which I thought was pretty amazing. So yeah, definitely agree with you there. You retired as a Jaguar in 2008, and then you transitioned into coaching in 2011 as the assistant defensive line coach.
Oh, it's 2010.
2010, excuse me.
Yeah.
My apologies. And then you go over to Tampa Bay in 2015, and you coach over there as assistant defensive line coach as well. And you see other players, Jags players like Mark Brunell. He's the quarterback coach for Detroit Lions. Keenan McCardell was the wide receiver coach over with the Jags. Now he's over with the Vikings. Byron Leftwich too over in Tampa Bay. What made you want to go into coaching?
Man, I tell you what, probably my last 2 years in Jacksonville, 07, '08, being one of the older guys. I spent 9 years in Jacksonville. I saw a lot of people come and go. And I just wanted to be able to kind of give what was given to me and try to help guys be able to have a career in the sport. There's so many guys out there that they were just, we call them statistics, meaning that, hey, they might have made the team for a year and that was it. Well, if you played a year in the NFL, you didn't have no career. You just play some football. I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? I was always a guy that, knew what I was supposed to do. The coaches trust in me. And that's one of the reasons why I stayed as long as I did, because granted, I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the strongest or the biggest. I was a guy that was big on technique. I thought that was so important. And I wanted to be able to transition what I've learned and what I picked up from, great coaches like Ray Hamilton, John Pease, Lucius Selman, even Coughlin. He's not high on my list, but, again, as far as a coach, there are things that you can look to and take from, guys you be around. Jack Del Rio, Mike Smith, you can be around these guys as a player. And if you're not learning, then what are you doing? I understand money's great, yes, but you gotta, God didn't put us on this earth to stay the same, to stay stagnant. And as I kind of went through my maturation from a young, undrafted player out of Division II school to become a professional, and as I grew to become a professional, I just knew that, man, I wanted to be able to kind of give what was given to me. And like I said, my last 2 years in Jacksonville really taught me that, where I felt like I was a player/coach. And it was no question. When I retired after winning the Super Bowl with New Orleans, I got opportunity to see a different style. Sean Payton's style is very different than Del Rio's style. Sean Payton's more blunt, and he'll put it out there on you. But I got a chance to see, Drew Brees, be around a guy that's a ultimate professional, ultimate competitor, and will want to win. And he had a head coach, and Sean Payton was the same way. And, watching those guys, watching how they work, watching, what it takes, I'm like, you know what? I need to continue to, mimic that and get that out to other players. So that way, they can have a career as well, because that's what it's about. If you're going to go in the NFL, go in with the mindset of a career. Too many guys, and like I said, I've got opportunity to coach in the NFL for 7 years. Too many guys, they come into the combine or they go into a workout and all they talk about is contracts, for the most part. I want to hear guys talk about, man, coach, I'm trying to have a career. I want a career. I want to do whatever I got to do to be able to play 10 plus years. Nobody want to do that now. Everybody wants the convenience factor of, you know, getting in, getting a lot of money and getting right out. To be a professional, you can have a microwave career. It doesn't work like that. You got to put in the time. You look at anybody who has been successful, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you. I think there's kind of a short-term emphasis instead of the long-term, like you said. And I think, your experience um, definitely, I mean, it would helped you as or helps you as a coach, but also the fire. I mean, the motivation. You were an undrafted free agent, and you made your way into the pros. That's not an easy thing, and you see that with some other players like James Robinson, an undrafted free agent who had just an incredible
Mhm.
season. The drive has to be there. So I definitely think that that's a great thing to have for a coach. But you know, looking at this defensive line for Jacksonville, they brought in a lot of free agents. This offseason, Roy Robertson Harris, um, Malcolm Brown from New Orleans, um, a few others. In your opinion, who really stands out in your eyes on this defensive line?
Oh, I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't had a chance to really look at their defensive line. But like I said, they're going to need those guys to, play very well. And, they've struggled and they've, well, I wouldn't say struggled. Um, I know when their defense was rolling, they were one of the top defenses in the league with stopping the run. And with anything in football, you got to stop the run first and foremost. Don't get me wrong, some of these guys that you just mentioned, they're good players. They're not like they're terrible players, but by no means they wasn't. They're not the best. D linemen. But like I said, I know Joe Cullen. Work with Joe Cullen, and I know he's D coordinator. You know, they brought him in. He's a D line guy. He's been a D line coach for a very long time, and I know he's going to have his imprint on that defensive line. And having those guys flying around, playing hard, because again, Joe is a get after you type of guy. He's not a laid back, timid coach at all. I mean, he's going to get in guys' butt. He's going to get in their face, and in a respectful way. But again, there are so many guys in the NFL. A coach get on them, and the first thing they think, oh man, the coach don't like me. Oh, the coach trying to disrespect me. It's not about that. It's really not. It's about the coach actually cares, because the fact of the matter is, if the coach ain't talking to you, then you got a problem. Then you got to worry. Then you got to look at it like, man, this coach don't really like me or don't respect me if he ain't even willing to take 2 seconds to speak to me. Because the fact of the matter is, that coach is human too. And if that coach is putting all his time and energy and hours upon hours that coaches do in the NFL to try to help you be a better football player as well as a better man, and all you do is go left when he's trying to get you to go right, well, guess what's going to happen? Eventually, that coach, because he's human, is going to be like, man, this guy don't want to help us win. So I need to move on. And then hopefully those guys that they brought in as free agents, that they come with the mindset, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to make this team, to make this defense the best defense in the National Football League. And if they're not fighting and striving for that every day in training camp and all season and their workouts in the weight room, then you know what? They don't deserve to be there. They don't deserve to wear the cat on their helmet. But I'm pretty sure I got, because I know Joe, I got faith that he's going to seek those guys out and make sure that they're all pushing the same way. And if they're not, if one's pushing the opposite, then I know Joe will try to get him out of there.
Yeah. I know you worked with him over in Jacksonville and then into Tampa Bay. Um, that's a being a defensive line coach and then obviously transitioning to defensive coordinator, it's a big jump, but it seems like you feel pretty confident he's gonna change this defense for the good.
Well, Joe's been, working at becoming a defense coordinator a long time, and I'm really happy for him. I'm glad he got a shot. Wish I could be there to help him, especially with my ties with Jacksonville. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Was a little, a little bummed, a little upset about it. But again, don't hold no grudges. Again, I want to see Jags be successful. Because again, I got more love for the Jags than my own personal gain as far as coaching them. So I'd rather see them be successful no matter what, and no matter who's coaching them. At the end of the day, it comes down to the players anyway. And those players are going to have to learn, understand what Joe is expecting out of them, as well as Urban Meyer is expecting out of them. Show up every day to work. We're willing to work, willing to put in the time, and willing to go forth and play as a group, as a team, and not as individual. It doesn't matter how many likes you get or how many people retweeting what you said, or that stuff doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the guy to your right and the guy to your left. That's all that matters. And once you have a mindset like that this is my brother and I'm going to do whatever I got to do to help my brother be successful on Sunday, well, guess what? You're going to have one hell of a team. And it's unfortunate. You wish you could get all 11 guys like that, or all 53 guys like that. But you know what? In real talk, there are guys who are going to be selfish. There are guys going to be looking at their stats only, and that's where you go wrong as a professional. Because every true professional, he's going to win when his brothers win. He's going to win when his teammate wins, and that's how it is. If you don't have that mindset, then you know what? You're not a true professional. You just a guy.
Couldn't agree more. Joe Cullen mentioned that he was going to try to incorporate the 3-4 scheme into this defense, which was traditionally a 4-3. Are you, like, as a coach, are you seeing that more like now, or is it are teams just trying to be flexible, or like is it tough to do that from a scheme perspective or from a coaching perspective?
Well, if because Joe's been in Baltimore the last 5 years, 6 years, no, I think 5 years, and I'm sure he picked up some things that he feel confident that will work. But hey, they have the personnel in Jacksonville to be able to bring in a little 3-4 fold and be able to run it and run it efficiently. Then by all means, we've done it. When I was in Jacksonville, people never thought that because we were always 4-3, but we had a few times. Actually, the game I just talked about a few minutes ago with New England in 2007. We played 3-4 against New England. We shouldn't have, but we did, unfortunately. So, every team honestly has a 30 package. And that's what, as far as coaches, we call the 3-4 is a 30 package.
Okay.
And what that 30 package does is give you a lot of flexibility as far as disguising, as far as blitzing, and it allows you to do multiple things out of a 3-down look. And depending on what team you playing, if it's more of a passing team, a team that has a better passing game than a run game, then maybe you will add another DB in the mix when you go 30. If it's more of a run team, or a team that struggles with their offensive line, then maybe you're going to add another linebacker or a defensive end that's like a hybrid guy that you can bring in and have them stand up and rush from different areas, which they have. I mean, they got Allen, and he's a great talent, and I hope that Joe puts him in a position to be able to be successful, because that kid is a really good player, and I'm sure he's going to be one of the guys that teams are going to identify early to try to stop.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, I know we got a lot of double teams last year. I was like tried to take him out of the game. But yeah, I it sounds like it's more personnel. I mean, personnel based. Like if you have the personnel to do that, then you can do it. So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing that. I also wanted to ask you, as a defensive lineman, who was the best offensive lineman that you faced in your career?
Man, If I had a dollar every time somebody asked me that question, I have me a nice little chunk of change, man. I mean, it's hard. And honestly, I mean, truthfully, I can't just pin it on one guy. I mean, I can give you a list, run down the list. I mean, Jonathan Ogden, Eric Williams. I mean, um, you know, Willie Roaf. My man Flozell Adams. I mean, Marvell Smith is another good one. We had a lot of battles. Brad Hopkins, we had a lot of battles in Tennessee. Um, Terry Glenn out of Indianapolis, we had a lot of battles. I mean, guys that were willing to fight you for 4 quarters. And if you didn't bring it for 4 quarters, man, they will try. I mean, and mutt you the best way they can. Thomas out of Philadelphia. Oh my goodness, man! Like I said, it's not particular one particular guy. I will say this: the offensive line has took a backseat. And what I mean by that is the overall play of the offensive line has been taking a backseat. Technique is starting to go out the window. I don't know why that is, and why offensive lines are not as physical as they used to be in the past. And I don't know if that has to do with coaching, because again, I don't coach offensive line. I got a good friend, he does, and I know what he's about. I know, the offensive lines I see, because he's about running that ball. He's about being tough and physical, and that's how he coaches, and that's what he teaches. But you know what? I just see as overall when I look at the NFL, man, offensive lines used to be about something. I mean, the team comes out and want to punch you right in the mouth. You don't see that as much today in today's football. And it's unfortunate, because, offensive lines used to be celebrated, the Hogs, back in the day with Washington Redskins. I mean, even back when the Jags, when I first got here in 99, when I first got the Jags in 2000, they coming off that 15-3 season. I mean, their offensive line, I mean, Baselli, Cersei, I mean, oh my goodness, Smith. I mean, those guys will come at you. Yeah. They will punch them. They would try to punch your chest off if they could. Today, it looks like patty cake out there. It looks like the prom instead of, physical football. And, I don't know why. I wish I could put my finger on it. And if I knew, I would definitely go to every team and start telling these coaches, man, look, man, this is what y'all need to be doing. But, I'm not offensive line coach, but I just say as far as the play itself, from a technique standpoint and a physicality standpoint, it has gone down. And that's not just offensive line. They just stick out my mind because as a defensive line coach, that's what I always look at the most. But yeah, a lot of other positions as well have fallen off.
It seems like the offensive line is just, it's not a sexy, position. It's not like wide receiver or quarterback where they get a lot of the glory and the attention. You're in the trenches, mm-hmm. working hard and pushing people around. And maybe I think some of it is that, but I think people have to really understand that how important they are, especially when you have, for example, like the Jaguars, you have a top prospect like Trevor Lawrence, coming out his first year. You have to put somebody on, the left side, like a left tackle, to protect him. Otherwise, it's going to be it's not going to be good. So I don't know. Hopefully that changes.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know what? I mean, they kept the offensive line coach from year past, George Warhop. I know George. We coached together in Tampa. I will say George is one of those good offensive line coaches. I don't know if the talent is there in Jacksonville as far as offensive line. And I think that's one of the things that people do forget. Hardcore football fans know about it, but majority of the overall fan base does not know and understand that it's going to take a good offensive line for Trevor Lawrence to be successful. If those guys are, turn into turnstiles, then you know what? Trevor Lawrence is going to be another Danny Werfel.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You have to protect him or he'll be hurt, and then we'll be seeing Gardner Minshew again. But Minshew mania, right?
Yeah.
But
don't worry, I was a part of Fitz magic.
I wanted to know, just to close out, Paul, what was your most favorite Jaguars moment?
Oh man, That's another question I get asked a lot. My favorite moment at a Jaguar, I gotta say, it was probably in 2007. That year, man, it was like it started the year. It's so funny. That year started with a back injury for me in training camp, before right when the beginning of training camp, and a doctor who was a new guy, one of the new doctors over at JOI. He was a new guy, and he was like, "Oh man, you ain't gonna be able to play football anymore." And the old doctor that's been around a long time, and I don't know if he's still living. I hope he is, but Dr. Sharf is, he was a back specialist, and he told the young doctor, "Hey man, these guys are different. These ain't like the normal, people that's walking around. These guys are different. Don't say that, because I can guarantee you this guy can come back and play." And after a few, shots in the back, I came back to have one of my best years as a Jacksonville Jaguar. We went to the playoffs, and beating the team that I love to play. I mean, Pittsburgh Steelers was my favorite team to play, and to beat them like we did, that has to be for me the greatest moment, as the Jacksonville Jaguar. And I'm sure there are a lot more. But I was there for 9 years that I can probably that I can sit here and think about. But there's nothing better than taking a dang on terrible towel and kind of rub it right between your crack of your butt and just let them know, because that's exactly what I did at the end of the game in the playoff. There's nothing better, man. And I got some friends that are Pittsburgh fans, and I wish they could hear this podcast. But you know what? There was nothing better than playing against a coward. Oh my God, what's the man's first name? Coach Coward.
Bill Cowher.
Bill Cowher. Nothing better than playing against his team, because you knew they were physical. They're gonna come out, be physical. They're gonna run the ball with Jerome Bettis and those guys, and you just knew it was coming. And I love the physicality of football. That's one of the things that I love about football, is the physical and the violence of it. And there are certain teams back then you just knew you better strap it up. Del Rio used to call them two chin strap games, and that was always a two chin strap game when you play against Pittsburgh Steelers, and I used to love those moments every time.
Yeah, me too. What a rivalry. I mean, to see, that game was just incredible that you mentioned, and then watching in 2017 when we beat them in Pittsburgh. I was surrounded by Pittsburgh Steelers fans who were unhappy. I was told to go upstairs and go to timeout and stop cheering. It was great, man.
Hey, oh yeah, those moments, man. Because Pittsburgh Steelers, I will say this: next to Green Bay, between Green Bay and Pittsburgh, and I know some other people will say Kansas City or whatever, but no, or Oakland, no. Pittsburgh, Green Bay, those fans, they everywhere. I mean, oh my gosh. I had my old lawyer in Jacksonville. He was a Green Bay fan. And anytime we played Green Bay, I knew my phone was going to ring. He called me up. Hey, Paul, hey, man, you think we can get some tickets for the Green Bay game? I was like, all right, buddy. Because but like I said, those fans, Pittsburgh, I mean, like I said, I got a best friend. He's from Philadelphia, but he's a Pittsburgh diehard. And you know what? Every time I beat him, it was just love joy for me. I mean, I'm an Indianapolis coach because I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. So anytime we beat those two teams, it was always love joy for me.
Definitely. Well, Paul, thanks so much for doing this. You've been so generous with your time today, and wish you and your family the best, and stay safe.
Appreciate it, man. Likewise, man. Definitely everybody out there continue to stay safe. I mean, the pandemic is, people walk around like it's over, but it's really not. It's just got a little blanket over it. And I just tell everybody, man, continue to be safe, continue to mask up when you're around a lot of people. I mean, get vaccinated. I did. And I'm not saying you have to, but I would just say if you just want to be smart and just have a little weapon to fight against it, because it ain't gonna stop you from getting it, but it's just gonna help you versus all the other symptoms when you do get it.
Yeah.
And so I would just tell people to kind of protect themselves and their family, because we've lost too many people due to this thing. And personally, I haven't lost anybody personally, but I know people that have, and losing a family member or a friend is never a good thing. It's never a good thing. So I would just say, man, hey, I thank you for your time. You know, reaching out to me, man, and allowing me to come on the show and kind of share my thoughts of Jacksonville. But I just leave with this. Duval.
I love it. Thanks,
All
Paul.
right, man.
Duval! What's up, everybody? It's Andrew from the Jaguar podcast. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, there's more content over here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as always. And remember, this is a podcast, so you can find this pretty much wherever you find podcasts. There I'll be doing interviews of current and former Jaguars players, including Joe Schobert, Dewan Smoot, Shaq Quarterman, etc. And I also do interviews of former Jaguars players, including Natron Means, Jimmy Smith, Tom McManus, etc. So be sure to check out the podcast, subscribe to it, stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, go Jags, and I'll see you next time.